Hello everyone, welcome to the Bleedercore podcast and its inaugural first episode. It's the podcast where I invade my cast and crew's home and interview them about their experiences on the show. 15 years ago, I started writing a cinematic story that I never in a million years thought would get made. Flash forward to 2023 and 2024 and I'm officially knee-deep in the prequel series titled The Controller, a mini-series that follows Cece, a vampire whose job it is to police other vampires, and, if necessary, carry out a brutal punishment. Cece is the best at what she does. When we first meet Cece in the prologue, now available to watch on YouTube, she's grown tired and weary of her job. Her past and ill standing among her own kind has left her questioning whether an immortal life is truly what she wants. As Cece works through her existential crisis, she finds herself entangled in a conspiracy that could very easily cost her her life. In regards to the podcast, I didn't want it to simply be about Bleeder. I wanted to share insights on my journey through filmmaking. I don't always do things the right way. I have my way, and I get mostly the results I'm looking for. And I thought it would be interesting to share this side of the process with viewers and listeners. Also, if you like the music you're hearing right now, we have the amazing Chris Graves to thank. It is also the official opening theme to The Controller. You can find more of Chris's work on pretty much any platform where music is played these days, including iTunes and Spotify. I highly recommend you check him out. On this first episode, we get to sit down with an actor you may not be familiar with yet. As of this recording, Chapter 1 is still in edit and Chapter 2 is still far from done being filmed. Skylar Archer, who plays Wyatt in the show, very enthusiastically volunteered to be the first interview, and I was excited to have him on. We get to hear a lot about his past work as an actor, the work he put into developing Wyatt as a character, as well as his process as an actor. A subject that I greatly appreciate and one that any aspiring actor should listen to closely. So sit back and enjoy this candid conversation with one of the stars of The Controller. And welcome to Bleedercore. Hello everybody, this is Ryan Brewer with The Controller and the Bleeder Show. Tonight is our first ever inaugural podcast / live stream featuring members of the cast and crew. And tonight I have Skylar Archer with us tonight.
Hello, Ryan.
Hello. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We don't have a name for the show yet. I haven't decided on a name yet, so I'm going to leave that up to you guys.
Oh, wow.
Let's get some ideas from the audience. Hi, Gia. And hi, Skinny. I've just gone by your screen names. I know who you are, but welcome to the show. Tonight we're just kind of talking. We're going to be chatting about The Controller and Bleeder and filmmaking in general. And we're going to ask each other questions, of course.
Yeah.
But we're also going to answer your questions. Trinity, welcome.
Oh, I know that one.
You know that one.
I do. I went to high school with her.
Oh, well, hello, Trinity.
Hi, Trinity.
Hello to high school Trinity. So, why don't you tell us who you are, Skylar?
Who I am? Well, I'm Skylar. Mm-hmm. I am an actor, singer, semi-dancer, kind of in the area. In The Controller, though, I play Wyatt, which I don't think we have seen yet in anything, but we have filmed a little bit.
We have.
A little bit with him.
He has been filmed.
I think some stuff later on, next couple of months, maybe.
Maybe within the next couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks. Yes. I got to learn my lines, guys.
We've got some scenes that we got to film, and it's going to be tough getting through this without giving away anything. I'm going to push this back.
I don't want to give it away.
Totally looking like right up my nose. There you go.
Because if we give it away, I don't have to work as hard, so...
I am the luckiest man in baseball. Ball. What?
Okay.
Alrighty then. How did you get involved with the show?
Well, I had this really cool guy. This super cool guy. The Ryan Brewer reached out to me one day and was like, hey, I know a few of us are working on this project called The Controller, and I was wondering if you wanted to maybe play a role in it. And I was like, well, I don't know. Yes, absolutely. I would love to be a part of this project. I've heard a lot about it. I mean, Chanel Allward is one of my best friends of all time, so she talked about it all the time, all the way back to the prologue. And so, yeah, you reached out to me, and I was all for it. And then you started going in about Wyatt, his character. And then I got even more excited to be a part of this because Wyatt's just a crazy character altogether. I love him.
And he's going to get crazier.
Yeah,
I can assure
I'm
you.
really excited to
There's
see
all
where.
sorts of fun things that keep popping up for him.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see where he's going. I mean, I have some of the scripts now, and I'm excited for that. But I'm excited to see what, as you as a writer, do with him.
In the grand scheme of things, I think Wyatt is the character that I get to just sort of have fun with on the writing side of things.
Yeah,
I can kind of do whatever I want to with him.
yeah,
A lot of the characters in this show are new. Bleeder in itself is a show that I wrote 15 years ago, and it already has a huge cast to it, but it was too big of a show to do back then.
right.
And so I wanted to do something. After I met Jade and we kind of connected on vampires, it kind of inspired me to write a whole new show. One that would be kind of a prequel series to Bleeder. And now I get to kind of have a little bit of fun just making new characters.
Yeah,
There's a couple of characters that are not new, so it's not all of them, but Wyatt's one of the new ones. And it's, to me, he's one of the fun ones to write for because he's so kind of over the top and weird.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's definitely one of the. Out of all of the roles I've played in my life, he's definitely been probably top 3.
Top 3?
For me, yeah.
See, I feel kind of honored in that respect.
Yeah.
Because you've done a lot of great shows and put on a lot of really great performances, I might add. I've seen quite a... I think the first one I saw of you was actually Little Shop of Horrors.
Zorn.
Yeah. My favorite role, in fact, in that whole musical.
That's number 1 for me.
Yeah.
Because it was the first one when I was like starting out in the theater. I didn't have anything as chaotic and as characteristic as Orin. Mm-hmm. And so when I got the call from Steven to play Orin, I was super excited. I was also really nervous because I was like, I knew deep down I wanted to play a character role like this. I didn't know if I was going to be able to pull it off.
Yeah.
And it was definitely one of those things, like, I love telling people, like, when I was preparing for that role, like, when I prepare for roles and do things while I'm driving. Mm-hmm. And I definitely, while I'm driving,
Oh my God, not the
or
dentist
especially,
while you're driving.
exactly. And, like, I would listen to the music and doing all that while I'm driving. And I was, like, well, I was working at MJL at the time, so I was driving around all the time. And I remember doing the last
Speaking of Janelle, she's joined us.
Oh, hi, Janelle.
Sup, nerd, she says.
Nerd. And I was working on the laugh. I was like, that was the one thing for that character I wanted to make sure I had, and it was the laugh when he does the gas, and like make sure to pace it out in a way that it wasn't always as chaotic as some moments. And I remember doing it at full speed one day during while I was listening to the song where he dies and he's the most chaotic, and I was doing it, and then I just look over and someone's just staring at me in the lane next to me. And I was just like, hey, you wouldn't understand. I'm just doing my thing.
Oh no.
But I know a lot of actors have stories like that where they're preparing for a role.
Yeah. What is what is your I know a lot of people some people don't like talking about the process, and it's fine if you don't want to, but like, what is your particular process like? Like what's your for this character? What are you
For Wyatt?
Yeah, what are you doing for Wyatt?
Lots of drugs.
Nice.
But no, this was a hard one because you sent me, and I remember you were like, he's pretty much a punk rocker junkie. Mm-hmm. That was the description I got for Wyatt. And I was like, okay, what do I do with this? So I took the junkie part. I wanted to hit that part of it first. And I just went on YouTube and I was just like, junkies. And there was a show on AME, the Walking Dead one.
Oh, yeah, that's AMC.
AMC, yes.
Yep.
There was a show on there a while back where they literally just followed around meth addict, like drug addicts, and just documented their life. And I just sat there and watched, and I was like, the different things that they would do. And at that point, I kind of got like the twitching and like the going for the neck and all the constant mentality of what they go through while they're on substances and while they're off of it. Mm-hmm. And I was like, cool. We kind of got that going down. And then we had to throw in the vampire and the fear aspect of it that he goes through. But I remember when we filmed it, I sat in my shower. I was taking a shower, and I can't remember if it was because I did an improv show that night, and I don't remember if it was before that or it was before work. But I made sure to get in the shower like 2 hours earlier than I normally would. And I just sat there, and I just did my lines over and over and over again. Just sitting there, just tweaking. And I was living with my roommate at the time. I'm sure he heard me, because in the scene that we did that night, I had a kind of a laugh with it. And I was like just sitting in there for an hour, just going through and making sure I had it. Because in the scene that we did, I was also on the ground. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to be on the ground for most of the time, so this should help me kind of get into it. And then, so that's where I kind of got like the junkie aspect of it. But when it came to the punk rocker thing, there's actually a song, and I don't know if you have like an origin story for Wyatt or how much you've gotten into his past, but for some reason I was just like, it'd be really cool before any of this happened that he was actually a punk rocker. Mm-hmm. And so that whole day and like the week before, I listened to a lot of Falling in Reverse, and they have a song called I'm Not a Vampire. And that was the song that was just going in my head, and like I listened to that on full blast that whole day. Mm-hmm. And even before pulling into this on set that day, that was what was playing, and I was singing to it, and that was the punk rocker part of it. And then the junkie came in when we filmed it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Do you use music a lot?
Yeah.
Because I find that interesting, because I use music quite a bit.
Yeah, music helps me quite a bit. I mean, another role I did was Quincy in Dracula. Mm-hmm. And this one's more of a funny. I did listen to a lot of country music, but there was one song in particular that I had play during the ending of Dracula when I killed Dracula. Familiar with Dracula and Quincy? It was Sam Elliott's version of "I Won't Back Down," and it was from the Barnyard, the animated movie from like 2006 or something. Or I won't back down, and I just had that, and that's what would play in my head during that scene, and I would listen to it.
That's really cool.
So yeah, music 100%.
Nice. That's awesome.
Helps me get into a lot of these roles.
I'm going to say yo to Patty, who has joined us.
Hi, Patty.
Gia has given the old winky face. I don't know if Janelle is still here, but for those of you who might be curious, Janelle is also in the show. Mm-hmm. She plays Lucy. You've probably already actually got to see her character. The prologue is out, and I posted the link in the description here. So feel free to check that out. We're just going to keep on talking. If you guys have any questions, feel free to chime in at any time. I will try my best to keep up with them. I had my iPad out because I was going to like follow the questions in the live chat, but it's literally doing nothing. Like it's just the video, and then there's just like a blank. It's like blank.
Oh really?
It's all blank.
I'm seeing like things
pop
on
my phone.
Yeah, like one at a time
here on the iPad.
That's really weird.
Yeah, it is really weird. So I don't even know why I have the iPad going now. Actually, I'm gonna just let it go just in case.
It's just hanging out.
Yeah,
the stickers are cool.
Well, thank you. I've been collecting them. I ran out of room. Unless
I can
like
see
really
that,
small
like really small ones.
Yes, I could probably do that. But
I feel like all the important ones are there though. You got X-Men, Batman, Seraphim.
Of course, I got Seraphim.
Oh yeah, Seraphim.
Gotta have Seraphim.
I love Seraphim.
Yes. I want to get back to the music thing for a little bit, because that's like for me that's a huge deal. There's only one other person that I've really spoken to about this, and that being Jade, and that's that Bleeder. To be clear, the controller is a part of Bleeder. I don't know if it can be confusing sometimes. The controller is a prequel series to that, but it all fits into the same universe. And over the course of the last 15 years, I have essentially built this giant playlist that's it's become the soundtrack in my head to this whole series from start to finish.
And you listen to it while you're writing?
Constantly,
yeah.
It's when I'm writing. It's when I'm not writing. It's pretty much the only thing I listen to anymore.
Yeah.
Like obsessively, especially over the last like year, because this was something I never like imagined that I would actually be making the show. This is very much the dream project, and so it's like the only show that I can think about. Yeah. Like I try to write other things, and I'm like, Bleeder. Back over here.
We're just gonna keep going. Yeah.
But yeah, I have like very specific songs that go with very specific scenes and very specific moods and moments in time. And to get back to your inquiry about Wyatt's origin, he's actually one of the few characters I didn't develop a full origin.
Really?
I did kind of envision him as being a former punk rocker, though.
Okay.
Yeah. So you're right on board. And I did that intentionally, though, with his origin story, because I want to be able to keep having fun writing him and doing whatever I want to with him. That's one of the nice things about not being beholden to that level of character development in the script, is that I can do whatever I want with him.
Yeah.
I can keep him around as long as I want, or he might die in season 2. Who knows? I don't know. I know the fates of every.
Lena's very mean.
She is.
She's very mean.
She is extremely mean. And that's kind of her thing. We got Blake and Liam watching. Hello, guys. Yeah, and so I don't know what Wyatt's fate's going to be, and so I think that's one of the fun things about writing his character. Actually,
yeah,
it gives me a lot of freedom.
What's going to happen?
Yeah,
yeah. No, I was listening to Falling in Reverse. I was like the band that I went back to for his character when I was developing what I was wanting to do with it, and hopefully you were okay with it. Was just that type of music, and I was like, what if he was this? That was what he wanted to be, and then something drastic happened. But that is the one thing that connects him to his original self, being this punk rocker.
That's really cool. And that really does kind of fit in with the overall theme, because I do kind of picture each and every one of these characters essentially being sort of frozen versions of themselves in time. Like, obviously they go through some change, but I think on some level, being vampires, and once you become immortal, you immediately have that oh my god, I'm gonna lose this. Yeah. So then we cling really tightly to who we were before we got bit, and like maybe over time you get a character like Cece, who's sort of, she never got to be herself. She turned into a vampire so young and immediately went straight into her job that she didn't get a chance to evolve as a person, right, and experience life.
So her person is this job.
That is the only thing that she knows. Yeah. That's all she is a controller, and she's starting to kind of realize that, and that's kind of where her existential crisis comes from, is this idea like she's never tried cotton candy. She's never had sushi. She's never done anything fun with her life. She's never been on a carnival ride. She's just always been hunting her own kind or hiding while waiting for the next job. So everybody, like Lucy, she's kind of stuck in this character that she was when she became a vampire. Like all of them are. And it's, to me, I think that's a very interesting perspective to view immortality with. Yeah,
absolutely.
I want to know when you first started acting.
When I first started, 5 years old. The very beginning was 5 years old. I went to school and I was a sports kid. My parents got me, like, I was doing everything, like just trying to figure out who I was and like what the person I wanted to be was. And both my parents were huge athletes. My mom played basketball, golf. My dad was baseball, basketball. And so like that's where they started me. And I played baseball pretty much all the way up till 11. But I remember like during like those summer years where like that stuff wasn't going on. My grandmother was an English major and did theater and music. And so like, and I stayed with my grandma quite a bit during the summer, and she always signed me up for like this. Storybook Island had theater programs, and she always signed me up for like those programs there, and I would do those. And then like Central also had a program, and I did that, and I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. And then middle school came around, and I went to Douglas, and I don't know if you know this, but Douglas is the only at the time I was there, I don't know if there's one now. I think it still is. Douglas is the only middle school in the area, the immediate area, that has a theater program. Outside of now Second Star, Cherry Street, all the community theaters have those youth programs. And I did a show in middle school when I was 11, and I was like, this might be the thing. And I was doing that one semester of middle school, and then my second semester, my 6th grade year, I did basketball. And then it was that turning point where I was like, okay, I think I'd rather be on the stage. And then I did theater, learned the basics and all that stuff. And then in halfway through high school was when I discovered music. I wasn't like big into music, and my aunt up in Wyoming was a fan of this show called Hamilton. And she was like, I'm going to get you this. And she bought me the soundtrack. And I was like, okay. Because when I thought of like musicals and stuff like that, I thought like Camelot, operas, and I was like, that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I'd rather just do a straight show. And then Hamilton came around, and that changed me forever. And now the rest is history. I kept doing theater, music, kept growing myself as an actor, singer, and now we're filming The Controller.
That's really awesome.
Yeah.
I like that story. That's cool. Rachel has also joined us. Rachel plays Lena, the mean one that he mentioned earlier.
She's pretty mean.
Gia had a question. Let me scroll back and I see it. Do your characters follow vampire canon? They follow my canon. Yes. I've spent the last 15 years writing Bleeder. I should say 15 years ago is when I first wrote it. And I didn't mean to write an entire television series, but I did. It was actually back when I first started making movies and my own movies. And I was supposed, the assignment was that I was supposed to go home and write some short films for me and my then filmmaking partner to make. And I went home and started writing this kind of noir detective story that just happened to involve vampires. And that story ended up evolving into a completely different story that turned out to be Bleeder. That's the short version of that story, by the way. And I ended up spending a whole weekend writing one script after the next. And over the course of like 2 years, I wrote 4 seasons of this show. And they're not huge seasons. I went with this was before Stranger Things and before Breaking Bad, but I had kind of an 8 episode, like longer episode is what I was going for.
Yeah.
8 episodes per season with a longer season finale and a longer season premieres. And so I wrote 4 seasons, 8 episodes each, ranging anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour in length, and then 1 2-hour-long movie to tie it all together. And so I created an entire canon of my own. It's a big love letter to vampire movies because I love vampires. That's like my favorite thing in the whole world. So you're actually in 2 of my favorite shows, Little Shop and Dracula.
Perfect.
But Bram Stoker's Dracula in my mind is like the de facto vampire movie. And I've always...
It's classic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Classic.
And so vampires was like a very prominent thing growing up in my house. My mom loved vampires. She wrote vampire stories. And so it was just kind of inevitable that I kind of fell down that hole. And I wrote this whole series, and it's got its own rules. It's got its own canon. It kind of builds off of other things, the rules that have been established over the years, but some things, but like the vampires can actually be out in the daytime in this story. They're weaker in the daytime. And if they spend too much time away from the sun, it hurts to go back out.
Okay.
Like it literally will burn from the inside out if they get exposed to the sun, but they don't die. It just it really, really hurts. And the longer you stay away, the more it hurts. And we'll see a little bit of that in the series.
It's like a sunburn.
Yeah, basically. Like a really, really bad sunburn.
Really, really
And
bad.
it heals really fast.
Okay.
But it's just that initial...
Do vampires use aloe, or how do they work?
How did you know?
No,
I haven't given away that detail.
just guessing here. God. That's what I would do. I'm not a vampire, but like...
I've spent the last year building a language for the vampires.
Very cool.
Which has been an interesting thing. I'd never looked into linguistics before.
Yeah.
And it's a very fascinating subject. I don't know. I might have to let you check out the book one of these times, but I literally I don't remember what it's called, but it's just like the language making kit or something. I don't know. It's
how to make your own language.
How to make your own language, basically, yeah. And it's essentially just a guide for phonetics, essentially, and just all sorts of different versions of sound and how sound happens and at what parts of your body it happens and how you use that to develop a language and alphabet around sound as opposed to just letters and ciphers, which just become ciphers for English all the time. But literally like changing the grammar rules and stuff. It's very interesting. It's been it was confusing at first, but it kind of started to come together over the course of the last, I'd say 4 or 5 months. It still needs tweaking. Lena gets to say the first line in Vampiric, cool. Which I'm really looking forward to. I think it's gonna be fun. But yeah, as far as canon goes, that's what it is. So I guess at the end of the day, I would call it Bleedercore, Gia. That's what I would call it. If you have any questions, feel free to do them. Throw them out there. We will happily ask them. Jesse is here. Thanks for joining us, Jesse Hamer.
Well, hi, Jesse. One of my first directors in middle school. Yep. Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
That's crazy.
Jesse was in Larry and the Monsters, one of my shows. I don't know if
really.
Have you seen that one?
No.
Oh, I'll have to let you watch it. It's one of my favorites.
That's really
one of
cool.
my favorites that I've ever made. Bleedercore, good one. Thanks. Came up with it all on my own.
Copyright it. Done.
It's done. It's on video. We got proof.
Yeah, there you go.
Exactly. I wanna explore this character a little bit more with you. Like, there's something I'm gonna bring up with the other actors as well. Either I don't know if we'll do it on the show or we'll eventually do it one way or the other during the read-throughs. But something that I've been contemplating a lot and I think is very important, and that's the intimacy of each character and how everybody has their own boundaries, and it's those boundaries that kind of define how we interact with other people. And I'm kind of curious if we look at it from that perspective, like, and I don't mean like kissing and sex and stuff like that. I mean just general intimacy, because that people's definition of intimacy is very different.
Right.
But overall intimacy, like what are Wyatt's boundaries?
Oh, that's a good one.
If you had to nail that down right now.
Just going off
on the spot.
Like just the little bit that I've explored with the character, because there's still so much going on with him. I think deep down he's afraid of literally everything right now. He is so terrified. Any scene that he's a part of, I think he's going to be scared of anything, but he doesn't really show it at some points, especially when he starts going into crazy mode. But I mean, we filmed the part with Cece, and he was just terrified of her. And it was really weird for me, like as an actor in that moment, because like I see me and then I see Jade. I could take Jade in a fight. And I'm this big dude, and I was like, but he's so afraid that I don't think he would want to get close to anyone. And I think he'd be so scared, and he's so afraid of what he's become and the things that he's seen, that he wants to keep to himself, and deep down he doesn't want to hurt anyone else.
I think that's very accurate. Would you agree that he's kind of a naive character, perhaps?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. That maybe he doesn't realize when he's doing bad. I think so.
He doesn't fully know what's going on, and I think it's because Lena doesn't give him everything.
Right. Yeah, he's just kind of going.
He's kind of a puppet. He knows some things, and he gives a little bit of information, because he's kind of like the information person. I mean, especially with the Rajier and Linnea's character. Kai, yeah. They're constantly looking at him for information, and so, but he doesn't want to fully give it. I think there's so much more that he knows. He's like, I don't want to do it, because if I do it, then like Lena's gonna be mad at me, but if I don't give you enough, you're gonna be mad at me. He's in so many emotions right now,
right?
And fear. Oh, the dog out.
Oh, we gotta let the dog out. He's warming up.
Yeah, he is. He's been pretty good actually since we started. But yeah, he's in a lot of headspaces right now. Like, what does he need to do to where he doesn't get killed? And he's very scared. Yeah,
he's kind of sitting on that precipice, like, who's gonna hurt me more if I, like, is it gonna?
And he does get hurt. I mean, I've already gotten bloodied up enough.
He does get hurt. Welcome, Morgan. Welcome, Abby, to the show. Abby Bernard and Morgan McDonald.
Abby McDonald. I think I went to high school with her.
Is there
and then Momac? We got Momac. We did Godspell.
Where was that? Who joined?
We got Joe.
We got Jonah Vasquez. Josh Porto was watching.
Ooh, we got Porto.
We did. I don't know if he's still watching.
I love you, Porto. We still need to kiss during improv.
Carly Kernos. Hello. Lots of cool people joining in on the show.
We got quite a bit.
So I want to talk a little bit about the night we filmed your scene.
That was an interesting first filming experience for old Skylar here.
It was. First time on
I'll never forget it. It was
had to come from an improv show.
My first improv show. My very first improv show ever.
Ever.
Like, I did improv in high school as like warm-ups, like how to act.
Right.
But that was my first ever, like, do it live. We do it live. And I didn't get practice like they told me. They were like, yeah, we're going to meet up. You'll learn the games and all that stuff. No, I learned the games from watching the previous shows, and then I did it live.
Joe has also joined us real quickly. Hello, Joe. Joe plays Sully in the show. Really excited to show him off in Chapter 1, which should be done soon. And before we continue with that conversation, I want to get to Gia's question here. She asked, would you play him clueless naive or more like hiding behind a wall of emotions naive? And then she corrects herself. She's a writer, by the way.
Okay. So pressure's on.
I just called you out. I'm sorry.
And talking to writers are scary. Hey, Ryan. There's so much emotion with the character, and I think he's hiding behind that wall. And we talked about it earlier with he's kind of gripping onto that little bit of that past self that he's had that, like, I personally developed of that punk rocker, but he's confused. He's scared. He doesn't know what exactly is going on. Where, like, CC, Raji, and all these guys, they're kind of familiar what's happening. Mm-hmm. And I think he's newer to the vampire world. So he's got a little bit of clueless, naive, but he is freaking out. And I think that's probably why he started with his junky drugs, is he was trying to find that escape.
Yeah. And
that's the only way that he can kind of connect himself to being a normal person again, is through that gateway.
I like that. Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Yeah, go writers, says Gia. Hell yeah.
We love the writers.
Go writers. They don't get enough respect.
I mean, actors don't act without writing.
Exactly.
Seriously, I wouldn't have gigs, jobs, events if there wasn't a writer to start it.
Exactly. So let's get back to the night. So it was the first improv show ever. Mm-hmm. Followed by the first time ever on a film set.
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, according to the weather report, it was supposed to be like 20 degrees out.
Yeah.
But then we had wind chills.
Yeah, it was the coldest night in March. Mm-hmm. The coldest night in March.
And the temperature just kept dropping.
Yeah.
Describe your costume.
Okay. My costume is, I think they're jeans. They're black jeans with just a bunch of chains going down. And then it's a vest with, like, those metal spike things going on. Very much a Hot Topic fit is the best way to describe it. But that's it. It's a sleeveless vest, full arms exposed, and then my pants. Not ideal. I mean, you had a heavy jacket on. Everyone had heavy clothing on, like, tech-wise.
But it didn't matter.
I think David had, like, a whole Eskimo setup up with, like, a mask and all that stuff. And then there's me.
Just in a sleeveless vest. A sleeveless punk rocker goth vest. Yep.
Yeah. The coldest day in March.
I think that was probably... I mean, it was... I had fun, of course, but it was probably one of the most miserable filming experiences I've ever had. If I'm
And you've been doing this for years.
Yes, 15 years. Cool. I've never had a night where...
This is my first.
It was that bad. There was one night that came close, or one day, I should say, that came close. It was way, way back in, like, 2010, 2011. We were filming Nayar, and there's a scene we just had to get a shot from outside. And the first day of filming for that, for whatever reason, it was like -15 outside.
Oh, wow.
And that was without the windshield.
Yeah.
And it was still blowing wind too. And we had, I think, about 20 minutes of filming we had to do out there. But in that 20 minutes, I came just drastically close to frostbite because it was so cold outside. And thankfully, we didn't have to have sound. We just needed the shot. And that helped tremendously. Yeah. It sped things up quite a bit. Mm-hmm. Dawn has joined us as well. Thank you for joining us, Dawn. Feel free to ask your questions down below. You can ask about the show. You can ask about filmmaking. You can ask Skylar about his awesome shirt he's got on.
It's the Batman, the new 2022 Batman with the joke, or the Riddler, question mark.
Yes, you're a big fan of Batman.
Yeah. We could have a 4-hour podcast if we start talking about Batman.
Is that what we should just change the subject of this podcast to?
Yeah.
Is Batman?
We really could.
Yeah. I could probably do the same with vampires. I could go on and on forever.
Yeah.
Um,
Batman fought a vampire at one point. There's Batman versus Dracula in
this is
2004.
true. This is very true. I think my roommate just kind of like gave me the load. Oh, that's what it was. There's like some new storyline with Blade in Marvel Comics right now where he was like a bad guy, I guess, because he was possessed by the original vampire or something like that. Not Dracula, but the vampire that made Dracula. And he showed me
the
a picture.
OG.
Yeah. And he looks like a cave troll. Yeah. Taran, thank you for joining us. We are talking The Controller and Bleeder tonight. This is the very first podcast and live stream that we're going to be doing. Hopefully doing more in the near future as well with other cast members and crew. And maybe I'll invest in more mics so we can have a whole group of people on here. Yeah. I don't know. That's that's a lot of money to invest in more mics, but it can be done.
Yeah.
It's doable. If you have any questions about the show, feel free to shout them out down below. We will get to them as soon as humanly possible, actually. Yeah. Did you have any questions for me?
For you? Yeah, I did. And I was actually talking to Chris about this earlier because I'm kind of getting to that point in acting where it's with casting and like what the mindset goes in for like on the other side of that audition table. Obviously we didn't have an audition, you just kind of reached out to me. But what was your when you were picking out who you wanted to play these roles when you were writing?
That's a good question. I actually didn't have like specific people in mind, right? Not when I was writing it. When I was writing it, I never have specific people in mind when I'm writing. Right. With the exception being CC, because Jade was the one who literally inspired me to write the show, to go back into it and to make that character. So I actually normally like doing auditions. I always put out casting calls.
Yeah, you did one recently for a solo film. Yep.
And I would say 99.99% of the time, nobody answers casting calls, especially for low to no budget personal projects like this. But I like the audition process. I actually prefer the audition process because as a writer, most of these characters, outside of the description that they have, they're faceless characters. Like I haven't put a face to them yet. A voice, yes. A personality, yes. But their face is kind of a blank slate.
Right.
And I just kind of, I think it was, I want to say Janelle actually, who suggested that I talk to you. And then immediately I was like, oh, well, duh. Skylar, why not? Of course. And that's usually what ends up happening a lot of times, is it ends up almost being kind of an aha moment with almost every casting decision. Like, well, of course, I mean, they're perfect for it. I mean, they're going to nail it. Yeah. And I've been especially blessed with this particular project to have a lot of really great talent in front of it. But generally speaking, I do prefer auditions. I just don't always get to do them.
Right.
Yeah.
I did hear a rumor. Was there someone else that was slated to play Wyatt before you reached me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there was. So technically, like Wyatt hadn't actually been created yet.
Yeah.
So the part that Lawrence, or I think he was by Dwayne sometime.
Oh, and Dracula, didn't he help out with filming one night?
Yes, he was in it, and he was in chapter 1. I won't say like what happens to him or what his character is, but so his character shows up in chapter 1, and originally he didn't have a name. The character didn't have a name. He just kind of showed up, and that's actually like fairly close to the end of the chapter.
Right.
And then after I got done running it, after I got done filming it, I was like, I'd kind of like to maybe see this character stick around. And so I started toying around with writing it. And then I just never heard from Lawrence. Like every time I would reach out to him, I could never get through. And I think he got a hold of me at one point again and then disappeared again. Yeah. And he just kept doing that, where he would like reappear and be like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then he would just disappear. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to, no offense, I'm just going to move on. I'll find somebody else to do it. And I mean, I wasn't entirely sold that, that he was going to play the part in the first place. It was more of a matter of a convenience. Like, oh, he's already kind of playing this henchman style role for Lena, why not extend that out? And then that's when the idea of an ongoing punching bag for Lena would come in. But the character itself kind of developed more around the idea that somebody else was going to play it, because it was a very different character from what we'd seen in chapter 1. So it's like, it probably wouldn't work out anyway. But yes, originally there was another actor that was supposed to play.
I don't remember if it was you or Janelle or someone else that said it, but yeah. That's what I heard. I was like, oh. Again, I thought it was Dwayne or Lawrence. He went by Dwayne when we did Dracula.
Yeah.
And then I remember he was like, oh yeah, I'm going to help out with this Ryan guy. I'm like, the Ryan Brewer? The Ryan Brewer?
God.
Now I'm jealous. And then, a few weeks, maybe a month went by, and he sent me a text, and I was like, okay, let's do it.
I was very happy, though, that we got you to play the part. Because I think...
I appreciate that.
I don't think he would have fit it anyway, the way it was being written. Because the way it was, the character that he had played was just very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe he'll come back on and play that character
again
that he played at the end of chapter 1 at some point. But we'll give him... He'll be a whole new character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like with the controller, like I said, a lot of things are very new. And so I'm just kind of coming up with new things as we go along.
Yeah.
A lot of new characters, I should say, as we're going along. The world itself is pretty well established, but... Yeah.
Characters just keep popping in and out. I am really excited. I mean, you sent me some of the scripts for later stuff, and I'm pretty excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, we did a read through for. I think we did all of chapter 1, 2, and 3, didn't we? Or did we just do chapter 2 and 3? It was just 2 or 3.
Was it
2 and 3? Yeah.
I was in the chat for. I never saw anything.
So that was back when I think Wyatt hadn't even been cast yet. We did the read through.
Oh, this is a long, because I remember Jay put in something like. In a month, it was when you decided, or I was asking about these podcasts stuff, and I was like, okay, when are we doing a read through? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll be available this time, and then I just never heard anything after until I reached out to you. I was like, I'm available. Let's do the podcast.
Yeah, well, and that's the read through that I had mentioned is going to be for chapters 4 through 6. So those are done.
Oh wow,
yes.
That's really far ahead.
Yes, the finale of the controller prequel.
Oh wow,
series. Yes. But we got to get through chapter 3 first.
I know we gotta,
and I wanted to make sure to have that filmed this year. So, do you compile a story bible like writers do to keep track of your character development? Yes, I actually wrote. Back when I first wrote Bleeder, I wrote a whole kind of bible for it that I called Eternus Vita, which was supposed to be eternal life, supposedly, in Latin. I think it might actually be wrong, because I looked it up again recently, and Google Translate had something completely different.
It's Bleedercore.
Yes, it's Bleedercore. See, we said it twice. Now it's for sure.
Now it's for sure a thing. It's a thing. It's
exactly.
Ours. Take that, Tolkien.
Yeah. and I do have like multiple notebooks, like sitting around, just me scribbling things. Like when I first started developing the language, like the pages upon pages of just writing things out and writing down ideas. And with Bleeder, a lot of it, the scripts were the Bible. So like I wrote that whole series in 2 years, and that's basically it. But then I wrote the other thing to be kind of just sort of supplemental, and it was written from the perspective of one of the vampires. I didn't even write it from the perspective of just me as a writer.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wrote it as if one of the vampires had like chronicled all this stuff,
gotcha,
and archived it or whatever. And
there's an archaeologist vampire.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yes, there. Well, Rogeri, he's a scholar.
Okay.
He's a very scholarly character, and that's kind of one of the reasons why he doesn't hang out in Vail, which Vail is not like Vail, Colorado. So she actually meant the actors as well as me, the writer.
Oh, that's me. I don't. I think the closest thing I have is a binder. I actually don't even know where it's at. But it's a binder that has audition pieces in it and pieces of music that I've done like on stage before. And that would probably be the closest. And like I have like in their notes and like what I would want like as to do for the character, like in the audition pieces. Like when you do an audition with music, you usually only get like 32 bars to do. So like there's little bits in there, but then like the full pieces that I've just been like, I'm gonna, buy the rights for it, print it out, and put it in this binder I have written in like during like certain character aspects that I want to show in that piece.
Nice.
So that'd be like
you do actual character work.
Oh yeah,
I like that.
100%.
That makes me happy. You have no idea. You just made my day.
Did I? That's what I do.
To know that somebody's actually taking notes and figuring things out, that makes me very happy.
Yeah, no, I do a lot of work. I've like there's a lot of like ensemble characters that I'm like, like especially like characters like when I did a Christmas Carol, I played 3 different characters and they each had like 4 to 12 lines. I don't go in deep with those kind of characters. I kind of just go like, okay, that's how I'm gonna make these 3 characters different from each other. But like those supporting roles, Oren, Quincy, Wyatt, I definitely do go in like characters that I play throughout an entire storyline. I go in and think about what I'm going to do for each thing. And even Godspell, I have a lot of notes. Even though Godspell was myself, I played me. I still went in and we did one of my favorite things I've ever done for a show. And this was all Chris Wheeler's idea as a director. We finished a rehearsal and he's like, you guys have the lines, you have the music, you have the blocking. You have it. I need to see a connection between all the characters. Go home and he gave us just sets of questions, like 3 words to describe yourself. What point of the show do you connect with Jesus? What point of the show do you connect with every other character in this? Because Godspell was, there was Jesus, Judas, and then a bunch of just random people that ended up becoming this community. And so like that, I went home and just thought about that as myself.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dig that. That's I wish more people would do it. I know that some people do, but I do often. I think one of my biggest pet peeves as a director is when people don't ask questions and when they don't have, when they don't want to do character development stuff, when they don't want to talk about that kind of thing, because to me it just kind of makes me wonder what you're doing with the character and like I don't want to know the specifics, but just having an idea of what you're going for. That way it's not just like a random jump in, jump out kind of thing. Yeah. And that way too, we can work together. Like that's
a collaboration. Yeah.
That's where it's supposed to happen, is the collaboration.
100%.
Because that way I can, that way you can gauge and be like, no, maybe you're a little off on that one. Like, let's try it this way. And And so that I can respect. Yeah. I definitely respect that a lot.
One thing I do quite a bit as an actor is I won't tell the director at first. I'll do it, especially in like stage theater, because you do like constant rehearsals. I'll do something as the character and then I'll go up to the director afterwards and I was like, hey, did you notice this? Did you see this part? And most of the time they'll be like, oh no. And then they'll look for it the next time we do it around. And they'll be like, that works, that doesn't work. Or like Oren, the laugh. I mentioned earlier, like the laugh was like a big thing that I wanted to nail down first, because I feel like that was the hardest thing for that character. And I walked up to, I actually walked up to Chris first because I was doing Pimpernel, and Chris was the director for Pimpernel, but he played Seymour, and I wasn't like as accustomed with Steven because Little Shop was my first Seraphim show. And I walked up to Chris and I said, hey, can I just, as a director, I know you're not the director for the show, can I run this idea by you? And he was like, yeah, what's up? And I was like, for Oren, I wanted the laugh to represent emotions. So it wasn't the same laugh overall, but based on the emotion that character was facing at the time, it was a different laugh. There was like a funny laugh, there was a scared laugh, there was a chaotic laugh, and he was like, "Ooh, that's a really good idea." And then I played that a lot more, and then I later on went to Steven, who directed Little Shop, and was like, "This is what I've been doing. How do you like that as a director?" And he's like, "It works." And so it is a collaboration between the actor and the director.
Yep, that's 100%. Absolutely, and that's one of my favorite. I have, what'd she say? This is what my friends call my question torture. Question torture.
Question torture.
You torturing with questions, or are you questioning torture?
You're on the wrong podcast.
Or
hang on. Wait.
Hear me out now.
Wait. No. Joss.
Oh, I love that. I don't even know like what I would do without that kind of collaboration. Like I think it's it's very essential to me as a director to have that back and forth.
I think the overall product just wouldn't work without, because I mean, you hear stories all the time of actors that are like, I'm going to do my thing and you're just going to let it slide. And then the product's just not working.
Too many questions and torture. Oh,
okay.
You can't ask too many questions on one of my podcasts or one of my live streams. Because a lot of times I don't get a whole lot of questions. Unless Patty's watching. Patty always asks
And then it's
questions.
like a 30-minute
Patty's
podcast.
Awesome. Yeah. Exactly. And speaking of Patty,
We're at almost an hour now, so I think we're doing all right.
intimacy with respect to character interactions, intimacy with respect among actors, directors on a film. Are you talking like a versus thing? I mean, as far as like character interactions go, and this is why I brought this up earlier, and why I'm going to bring it up when we do the next big read through, or when I have individual characters on the show. And to me, that intimacy, like I said, it's not like sex and kissing and stuff like that. It's just we all have a particular kind of intimacy, like on some level, and we all have our own boundaries. And the one thing I see happen a lot in independent films, especially when you're working with people who don't have a lot of experience in front of the camera, and who may have come from only a theater background,
right,
and maybe they didn't get any formal training, is that intimacy is part of what makes us look natural and comfortable with people and in our characters and our relationships. And that, to me, that's where that natural connection comes from. Like we get a character like Wyatt, who's very twitchy and probably has trust issues, but he also probably uses intimacy as a weapon to get by, to get what he wants, stuff like that. In fact, I know he does. There's a scene in chapter 4 where he tricks a girl into coming into the alley with him, and then he bites her. Yeah,
that's new for me.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. But it still kind of fits along those lines. Like it was more like, oh, hey, we're gonna go home and have a good time. No, we're gonna go around the corner and I'm gonna kill you. That's how that's gonna work, because I've got to get blood and I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But then you get a character like Lena, who is she has no boundaries.
Oh yeah.
And she respects nobody's boundaries.
No, she don't care.
Her entire goal in life is to make you as uncomfortable as humanly possible before she kills you, because she wants you to suffer, and she knows what the worst possible way is to make people suffer, and that's to get in their bubble, to get in their heads.
Yeah. I'm really excited because I haven't filmed with Rachel yet.
Oh yeah.
And I've heard good things.
Oh yes.
And I'm really excited.
I'm really looking forward to filming that scene, actually that first scene with you guys, which hopefully we'll be doing that one very soon.
Yeah.
But to get to the second part of what you said, boundaries between actor and director, Rachel chimes in. I have to play with my food. Smiles.
Hi. I am food.
I mean, boundaries are just as important between the actors and the directors as well. And I think it's very important that those boundaries are established beforehand too, so that we know where we can and can't go, and where the cutoff is. But we also have to understand that the actors are playing a character whose boundaries more than likely won't be the same as yours, as your personal boundaries. And to me, that's where things get interesting as an actor, and it can be from a directing standpoint. To me, it's more what you want to do as an actor, as opposed to what I want to do. I would much rather you be comfortable than me just impose the script on people and be like, no, you have to do it this way. This is how it has to be done. To me, that's not right. I think if you're uncomfortable with something, then you're uncomfortable with something.
Yeah.
But again, that's why it's important to establish certain boundaries beforehand, because then I need to know where those characters can go and where they can. Like Jade and I have talked a lot about boundaries in the past. And so when I write for CC, I know exactly what I can and can't do, or should or should not do.
Yeah. And that's where you get the best performance from that actor.
Yes. We've always heard of a certain constant pairing of a certain actor with a particular director. Yeah, so like you get your Tim Burton and your Johnny Depp's or Helena Bonham Carter. I like that, actually. I think that's really cool, the idea of working with a lot of the same people. Yeah. And I think that helps with boundaries too, actually, when you get that established rapport with a certain group of actors, and it just kind of comes naturally, you know, to know what everybody's boundaries are, and to kind of, it just becomes part of your own daily life, your own daily routine. You know that you can high five certain people, and certain people just, nope. That's not going to happen, and that's not a problem. Yeah. So you're just like, cool. And I do like the idea of, because a lot of the people that I work with don't have a lot of film experience. So it is kind of nice to be able to build that within the group. Mm-hmm. And so then we all know how we can work with each other and how not to work with each other. And like where we can go with things, I guess. I mean, that's pretty much the best way to explain it. Yeah, Orson Welles did it too. Ironically, David Fincher has always said that he does not like using the same actors. Like, he's very much you have a very particular role that you can play, and like everybody can play that role very well. Even though he does continuously cast, I think it was Brad Pitt. He's cast in more than one movie.
Okay.
And he usually doesn't do that.
I'm actually not familiar with that director.
David Fincher?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sure if you like said a movie or two.
Fight Club.
Okay, done.
I mean, that's the one that most people immediately know.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's so much more than Fight Club though. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. I love his filmography. Seven is an amazing movie.
Another movie I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of inspiration from the new Batman. Mm-hmm. From Seven. Everyone's like, it's like Seven.
Yep. So. Oh yeah. And, yeah, I love David Fincher, and I love his entire perspective on filmmaking. Mm-hmm. He's a little more intense with the filmmaking process, and admittedly, if I had more time and resources to do it, I probably would push it a little bit further like he does, because he's very kind of like Stanley Kubrick, where he just does an ungodly amount of takes per scene because he's such a perfectionist about getting it right.
Yeah.
He I don't think he's ever gone quite as far as Kubrick did, and Fincher's never gone so far as to drive somebody literally crazy. Kubrick definitely made some big mistakes during his directorial career. But David Fincher's never gone quite that far. Right. Although some people have complained about the process, that it's tiring and daunting. But like I said, if I had more time and more resources to be able to pull it off, I probably would push the number of takes that we do as well. Yeah. Because I think it really does take, because we don't get rehearsals.
No. Other than like the read-throughs.
Yeah, the read-through is about as close as we get to it. And
we do it live.
Yeah, and like even the fight scenes and stuff like that, I'm hoping that we get to do rehearsals for them, not having to come up with it on set.
We did, when we did the punch, we like ran it like 2 or 3 times. And
yeah.
It was, okay, we're doing cameras on now.
Yep. That was mostly because it was so cold. It's like, I don't want to keep making you guys redo this over and over again. But you guys also nailed it, so that made it good.
Oh yeah,
that made it easy.
It felt good.
Yes. All right. Well, you know what? I think I'm gonna try and wrap this up a little bit now. We'll move on. If you guys have any other questions, now is the last chance to kind of get them in there. We're gonna keep doing these. I hope to get more cast and crew on here pretty soon. I don't know how often we'll do them. Right. I would like to be able to do it in a way that it's like a weekly or at least every other week sort of thing. So hopefully we'll see more of this soon. Random question from Joe. Oh dear. It's in caps. Sully with mutton chops.
Haven't met him yet? Yes.
Maybe when we get to Bleeder, I'll think about it. I always pictured him with a beard. And I actually pictured him with really long hair too, but I sacrificed the long hair in favor of the beard. Mm-hmm. What is the meaning of the universe? What is the meaning of that question?
42.
There you go. The answer is 42. Nothing more to that. I guess I'm confused, I guess, about the meaning of the universe. Like, what does that mean? I don't understand the question.
That's definitely a you question.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm sorry I can only grow it
okay. I think we answered.
Bingo.
We got it.
There you go. 42. There's your answer, Ted. Ted is also a filmmaker, by the way. He's a
Really?
Skinny Joe fan there. I've worked with him in the past as well. Everything leads to decay. The universe has no meaning and exists in a perpetual state of entropy. 42.
Nailed it.
Fits infinity, growing and dying. A lot of what Bleeder is to me is it's an exploration of mortality versus immortality, and the futility of immortality. A lot of these vampires in this story became vampires for what many would probably consider to be the quote unquote the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of them were trying to escape from their lives, or and like in Wyatt's case, you know, probably drugs and alcohol, and probably thought he had an opportunity for a better life, and it turned out to not be as good as he thought. But like it always starts off fun, doesn't it? You know, immortality. Like it always starts off as this, oh, I can do whatever I want. Yeah, I can do anything I want now. And then eventually the reality sets in.
Years later, when you're constantly losing people, and it's like, there's no end.
The meaning of life is a blank slate that we are left with freedom to fill in ourselves. This is the gift of free will. Oh, there's a C more. This is, that's all it was. Right. This is the gift of free will. Yeah, and I think that kind of plays into the immortality aspect of it. It's like, what are you losing other than your mortality? Like you're losing so much more. Like we were meant to die, you know, like that's just kind of how it works. That's the cycle of life and death. And to defy that, you know, it kind of defies all morality, all meaning. And in this universe, a lot of these vampires are not very happy people.
No.
They're very depressed. Although ironically, the other part of this universe is that they are, they're kind of the good guys. The vampires actually, they literally only hunt if they have to, and they only hunt literally the bad guys. Like they'll hunt down the junkies and the thieves and the murderers and so forth. And yeah, every once in a while, the junkies and the thieves and the murderers become vampires.
I'm the problem.
They kind of slip in under the radar.
Yeah.
And that's why characters like Cece exist. She is a controller in that universe, and the controller is essentially the police.
Keeps the balance.
Yeah, they keep everybody in check, although they're not very well liked by their own kind. Even though technically what they do would be considered a noble job, most of the people who are controllers are also not very good people when they become that. It's, but that's usually why they become controllers. And if, you know, the controllers are the police, Sully, the character that Joe plays, would be kind of like the FBI. They'd be like the next step up,
right?
You know. But yeah, I think it all kind of boils down to that, the futility of immortality and the acceptance of mortal life as even in all of its nuances and the negative things that come with it is all part of what makes mortality worth it.
Yeah,
I think. I don't know, if that answers your question, I hope it does. But I like 42. 42 is a good answer.
I think it's the answer.
And then there's Lena, who kills whatever, whenever. Love long enough, and death is seen as meaningless, if not something to envy. Exactly. I think on some level, Rachel, or not Rachel, but Lena, Lena is just as eager to be done with immortality as everybody else, even though she revels in her power, and she enjoys what she does. I think deep down she knows she's a sick person, and that she probably doesn't need to be in this world. And for many, many reasons. I'm not going to go into her origin or not anything right. Not right now. I'll do that when Rachel and I do her live interview. Anyway, as I said before, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys tune in again. Make sure to follow the page and check us out on YouTube. There's a link for the prologue is up above. Chapter 1, I'm hoping, will be released within the next month or two. It was supposed to be released in May, but I'm waiting on people for things.
You know who you are.
Yes, you know who you are.
check it out. Follow, like, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me, Sam.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
I really enjoyed it. You guys enjoy the rest of your night.
Have a good night.